Hello everyone. Today I'll be comparing the two diamond versions of Philia, which are Djinn, Frizz and Class Cutter. I'll go through their base stats and signature and marquee ability, which moves and stats to use, and finally where I suggest using them or which fights I would avoid. Alright, let's start with their base stats. Djinn's attack stat at 15.6k is incredibly high, second highest of any character in fact. Pair that stat with a signature ability that can give permanent enrages and you have a very scary character. Her HP isn't anything special however, and it's just about average. Over at Class Cutter, we can see that she sacrificed some of her attack to gain a little bit more HP over Djinn. Her attack stat is still above average in 11th place of all characters, and combined with her signature ability, with which she can make her enemies bleed, she's still a very strong offensive character. As always, signature abilities dictate how you should be playing a character and whether they are more suited for offensive or defensive play. In case of Djinn, we have sort of a mix of the two. Her ability to gain random buffs can throw people off if she randomly gets unflinching while you're in the middle of a combo. But it's sort of a gamble since she's not too tanky of a character. She might not get that many chances at trying this sort of thing. However, the chance to convert buffs into permanent enrages I find almost purely offensive. The AI isn't smart enough to pace themselves so that they can get the buffs mid-combo and allow for the conversion to activate. A player, however, can do so quite well. Therefore Djinn is mainly an offensive character, but can pay off defensively if you like to gamble and get lucky. For her marquee ability, I'd go with Leech since she has such a high damage output. She heals quite a bit from it, which can be quite helpful for getting max health points in Rift. Moving on to Class Cutter's signature ability, we have a similar case of defense/offense mix. Special moves and blockbusters having a chance to be unblockable can be very strong, especially since the AI buff with the increased chances of them using special moves and blockbusters. And if she does punch through on defense, her other ability to inflict heavy bleed and heal block is also very likely to activate, making her a solid character for defense and very scary at times. On offense however, your special moves and blockbusters being unblockable shouldn't matter too much since you don't want to gamble on that activating most of the time. The second part of her first ability also states that she inflicts Death Mark, which in turn makes her second ability much easier to activate. Since she has such an easy access to bleeds, I suggest using the first cut marquee ability. Turning a heavy bleed into a permanent bleed can be a bit awkward since you turn 2 DPS into 1, but it's still worth in most cases. Now, what moves are best to complement each of those Philia's signature abilities and which stats should they possess? So for Djinn, you want to get as much meter gain as possible because it's essential to get your blockbusters up every combo to get those juicy enrages. Pair that with attack percentage and piercing for added damage and healing if you went with Leech. Accuracy can also be quite useful to get the 33% conversion chance up to around 50%. For the moves, what I did with my Djinn is to equip her with one special move for when I don't have a blockbuster at the ready, and every other slot is filled with a blockbuster so I can use one almost always when I'm getting the random buffs. Drill Tempered is especially good since I can charge and use it in one combo. Additionally, it's a very useful blockbuster because of its chance to remove buffs. Blowout, the BB3, is useful to control the enemy's blockbusters. And since you should have a lot of meter gain, you can use it a bunch of times during a fight. As Class Cutter, I highly suggest using a similar moveset to what I'm running here. Every move serves its own purpose. Hairball has the most hits of every special move and it covers distance, so it's very good for Class Cutter's defensive capability, with the added bonus that you can combo well with it and it does decent damage, so you can trigger the heavy bleed with it. French Twist is there because the French Twist into Gregor Samson into Hairball combo is basically guaranteed to inflict Death Mark and bleed. Tricobezoar, I hope that's how you pronounce that, has the best chance against very tanky builds to inflict bleeding, which against very tanky builds is very good. Last but not least, I'm using Fenrir Drive because of the damage bonus it gets when the enemy is bleeding, which should be most of the time against Class Cutter. For the stats, I mainly go for attack percentage, piercing and meter gain. Accuracy is also great to have, to increase your chances of unblockable moves and inflicting deathmark, but you only get plus 5% at max accuracy. Additionally, crit rate and crit damage is good to have, since you inflict deathmark and you will do a lot of damage when you do those critical hits. Okay, having covered everything else, let's move on to where I think Djinn and Class Cutter can or should be used and where I would avoid using them. First up, Djinn Frizz. In prize fights, almost nothing can touch her. Assassin's Creed is your only real threat since you can't use blockbusters against her, which is admittedly like 90% of Djinn's power. Okay, onto Rift battles. She absolutely shines in the solo nodes in Rift. She doesn't rely on debuff, so she's great on the Chaotic Evil and Concrete Resolve modifier. She has access to buff removal, which makes her good in the halftime node as well. Even though you might not need to remove the healing, since her damage output is so high that most things can't stand against that. Additionally, I think Djinn does well against autoimmune and super slow-mo. Autoimmune for obvious reasons of simply not debuffing the enemy, and super slow-mo because you can get blockbusters really quick, and if you get too many slows, you can throw the enemy to get that last little bit of meter. I personally like to use Djinn for final fights, because unless you get super unlucky, you can still get the kill with Drill Tempered. Djinn and Fila in general struggle to deal with frost armor or reactive armor nodes, because she lacks reliable armor break and gives the enemy plenty of chances to gain armor with her combo that does a lot of individual hits. Futile resistance doesn't work well with Djinn for the same reason, even with Djinn's incredible attack stat. I would also avoid going up against blockbusters because unless you can time your blockbusters perfectly, without them you lose a lot of your power. Over on Class Cutter's side, in prize fights she's almost unstoppable, since she can take on just about every character, even Assassin's Creed, but not Marquise Pinwheels, to which I'll get later. Getting heal block on Assassin's Creed means you can use Class Cutter's blockbusters without being afraid of giving her incredible amounts of healing. You still have to be careful of the self damage you take from doing so, but she fares better than most characters against Assassin's Creed and gets the job done in prize fights. In Rift, Class Cutter's enemy is autoimmune since you try to bleed him a lot, blockbusted because blockbusters are the most reliable way to get those bleeds, and again frost armor or reactive armor. In addition, now that you're definitely running a lot of crit rate and crit damage with her, you need to avoid Marquise Pinwheels like the plague, or coronavirus I guess now. Tainted blood basically means death for you, and grudge isn't easy to deal with either, though it can be done by strategically charging your blockbusters up when they have armor and using them just after they've all tamed out. All in all, both variants are a great addition to any collection and can do some serious work. If I had to play favorites though, I'd go with Djinn because the leech self-healing is very useful in the current version of Rift. While the bleeds of Class Cutter are strong, I usually have another character I can use instead of her, like a Chaos Double. Anyway, that was my breakdown of both diamond variants of Philia. I hope you enjoyed and maybe even learned something. If you want to catch me live, I stream every Tuesday and Thursday on Twitch at twitch.tv/climax_ between 8 PM and 11 PM CET time. I hope to see some of you there, and as always, thank you so much for watching, it means a lot to me. Bye!